Welcome along to Matchday Live as the Foxes travel to West London to face Brentford at the Gtech Community Stadium. Every single game now in the Premier League is massive, of course, for Brendan Rodgers and his Leicester side. We're an hour away now from kickoff, so let's get all of today's team news with our commentator, Chris Parrott.
Thank you, Dan, and welcome to the Gtech Stadium. A very big afternoon ahead, isn't it? And Brendan Rodgers has made a big calling goal today. Daniel Everson comes in for his Premier League debut. Danny Ward on the bench. No Johnny Evans through injury again, or Wout Faes through suspension after his red card against Chelsea. So this is the Foxes 11. In front of Everson is Ricardo, Daniel Amati, Harry Souttar and Timothy Castagna. Wilfred Ndidi starts for just the fourth time this year in the league after all those injuries, alongside Kiernan Dewsbury Hall in the base of midfield. Then it's Tete, James Maddison after his England call-up, and Harvey Barnes behind Patson Daka, who gets the nod ahead of Kelechi Iheanacho and Jamie Vardy up front. Iheanacho and Vardy are on the bench alongside Ward, as well as those three: Mendy, Pratt, Soumare, Thomas, Brunt and Marcel Madavidua. Well, things have rarely been this good at Brentford. They are chasing European football, which is a remarkable thing to say after the last decade or so. No Vitaly Janout for them. He suffered a knee injury against Southampton in midweek when they won 2-0. Young Mikkel Damsgaard comes in, and Johan Wissa also returns to their starting 11. They'll go 4-3-3, David Raya in goal, Aaron Hickey, Ethan Pinnock, Ben Mee and Rico Henry at the back four, Matthias Jensen, Christian Norgard and Mikkel Damsgaard in midfield, with Brian Mbeumo and Johan Wissa either side of Ivan Toney, who, like Maddison, is in the England squad. But from Leicester's perspective, Dan, very, very interesting. Daniel Everson is handed his first start in the Premier League.
Thank you very much, Chris. We'll hear from you again just before kickoff. You'll be alongside Matt Elliott as well, as you can hear every single kick, of course, on LCFC radio. In the build-up to the game, though, I'll be alongside Matty Fryatt here in the studio at King Power Stadium, and Jerry Taggart is in sunny Norfolk. Jerry, aren't you? Well, it looks quite nice there. Good afternoon to you. How is it?
Yeah, it's overcast at the minute, thankfully, so I'm not out in the sunshine, walking on the beach with the dog at the minute. So yeah, quite happy to be sat indoors.
Ever the professional. Even when you're on holiday, Jerry, you're still working for us. You can't miss a second, can you? Good afternoon as well to you, Matty. Thanks for coming in. And there is some headline team news. Let's broach that subject straight away. Daniel Everson in goal, of course, ahead of Danny Ward.
Yeah, good afternoon, firstly. Massive call. Obviously, from the goal last week and the first one in particular, I think Danny Ward would have been disappointed with it. But this stage of the season, to change from your number one, where at times it's been a little bit indifferent by Danny Ward, but it's a big call. And to throw Daniel Everson into the deep end is a big ask, but obviously feels it needs to be changed. Danny Ward might be short of confidence as well, and it's one of them, if it comes off, it's brilliant. But at the same time, it is a big ask going for a keeper who's inexperienced within the Premiership, and at that stage where Leicester do need points on the board. So it is a big call, but it's one obviously Brendan felt he needed to make.
Yeah, we'll talk about that call in a little bit more detail. Firstly, though, let's take a look at what else we'll be talking about here on Matchday Live as we build up to kickoff. We'll take a look back at the game against Chelsea last weekend, of course. What could have been, really. So many times this season we feel like we've been saying that, missed chances, but Leicester could have got more than the defeat there. We'll take a closer look at Brentford and, of course, at Ivan Toney, who, as Chris rightly pointed out, is in the England squad. We'll look back as well at some classic goals scored against Brentford, including that absolute cracker last season from Yuri Tielemans. How we could do with something like that from one of the Leicester players today. Jerry, obviously, as Matty's been touching upon, of course, Daniel Everson in goal. It's a big call from Brendan Rodgers, isn't it? But we know how good Daniel Everson is. He was the Preston player of the season, wasn't he? Of course, on loan in the Championship last season. We know he's got the quality.
Yeah, it's absolutely. You know, he's been the number two. He's had a couple of cameo roles this season in the cup competitions. It's a step up, you have to say, pressure-wise in particular. you know, when your team's languishing at the bottom of the table and you're being thrown into the deep end as a young up-and-coming player, then that in itself is no easy task. So it's a big, big day for Daniel Everson. I think Brendan Rodgers' mind was made up when he's analysed, in particular, the first goal last week against Chelsea. I think somewhere, I might have been quoted saying that it was almost unforgivable, and that's, you know, the sort of path Brendan Rodgers has taken by dropping him for that first goal. There was a big, big mistake in that for Danny Ward, and at this stage of the season, you can't afford your keeper making basic errors. There's been a lot of basic errors throughout the team, but when you have an experienced keeper, an international keeper, making basic errors that lead to goals, then you've got to start asking questions, and that's exactly what Brendan Rodgers has done.
And obviously, as you say, Jerry, big step for Daniel Everson to make. We've seen him coming in cup games as well. He was the hero in the Carabao Cup earlier in the season from in the penalty shootout. Was absolutely brilliant. I'm sure he's got the mental strength to step up, and he'll be relishing this opportunity today. Yeah,
so he's had a little taste, hasn't he, Dan, as you say, in the cup competition. So you would expect him to be eager to now make the jump to the Premier League. And today's his chance, albeit in a struggling team, it has to be said. So there's that pressure there, but it's still an opportunity and a game that he should be relishing today, stepping in and becoming, number one. It's down to him now to handle that pressure. Away game at high-flying Brentford, who are in great form. They just obviously turned over Southampton midweek there 2-0. So it's going to be a very, very difficult game. There's no doubt about that. But, that's why, you come into this game, you soon realise that it's not all sunshine and flowers in the world of Premier League football. He's going to have to dig deep. He's going to have to go to places, I've said before, that he never thought he knew he could go to. And hopefully he can come out the other side.
Hopefully so. Jerry, a little bit earlier, mentioned, of course, the Chelsea defeat last weekend. That first goal in particular, Danny Ward will be disappointed in it. Let's take a look back at the highlights from that loss at Chelsea, or against Chelsea.
As the flags fly, as Leicester City and Chelsea take to the field ahead of the Premier League game here on Filbert Way. Away from Dewsbury Hall, a flighty ball will come back all the way to Chilwell, who scored against his former club. Ben Chilwell will milk the celebration in front of the Kop ends. To Ricardo, Leicester win it back, and it's a shot from Daka! Oh, welcome back, Patson Daka! The ball falling to him on the edge of the box and left-footed. He's fired the ball into the bottom corner beyond. Ariza Balaga, his first Premier League start since Boxing Day. Fafana touching the ball onto Enzo Fernandez. He scoops the ball up, and it's Havertz! And the flag stays down, and Chelsea have got a second in injury time at the end of the first half. In down the right, Fassi's able to get in front of him. Havertz holding it up and finding Mudryk. His header back into a danger area and finished off by the Chelsea captain Kovacic. His first goal of the season in the Premier League. He's come over the halfway line before he was met by a sliding whack pass challenge. No free kick given. Tete away from Kovacic. Then he makes the challenge, and well, in fact, the referee had played on, so there's a yellow card now for Whack-Pass. And he was booked, was he, in the first half? And it's a red. And Leicester defeated it, 3-1 by Chelsea.
Yeah, it was a bitterly disappointing afternoon at King Power Stadium last week against Chelsea, of course. We just heard Brendan Rodgers today has spoken to the cameras down at Brentford about his decision on Danny Ward. He basically said he had an honest conversation with him in the week at the training grounds and said his piece, and Danny was understanding, and he went on to then talk about Daniel Everson. Said he's played a lot of football in the Championship. He's come in exactly as Jerry says in a couple of cup games and looked good. So that's where the change has been made, and there's still a long way to go this season, of course.
Yeah, it's a huge call still. But it's one for Daniel Everson to embrace that challenge. Obviously, you mentioned his past experience within the Championship, and you look at Brentford and they do thrive on more direct balls into the box at set plays, so he's probably more accustomed to that football, strangely enough, even though he's new to Premier League football. In terms of the physical side, he's got to embrace it, be on the front foot, communicating to his defenders, and probably the players in front of Danny Ward last week, just their confidence dropped from obviously the mistake that happened and question marks about the Southampton goal, and sometimes it's right for a player to come out the firing line a little bit, and someone that goes in there and sees it differently, even though it's a big challenge and something, well, not new, but in terms of there's your debut in the Premier League, but sees it a little bit differently, and he's been waiting for this. So at the same time, Danny Ward's got to accept the decision. Support is understudy, give him everything he can possibly, and it's something where Daniel Everson comes into the game and he's in some ways hasn't got anything to lose because he sees it differently and can only be on the front foot, be positive and embrace that challenge.
Yeah, we've just seen some shots, Jerry, of the goalkeepers doing a little bit of a warm-up down at Brentford. There was a smile on Danny Ward's face. He was doing a few keepy-uppies with Daniel Everson. He's not the type of character to really throw his toys out the pram, is he, to spit his dummy out. He'll be there, as Matty says, to support Daniel Everson today.
Yeah, that's an important point that Matty makes. You would expect, obviously, Danny Ward to be disappointed. It sounds like he's had a couple of days to get his head around that disappointment. But it's also very, very important because he is the most experienced keeper in the camp, that he can help Daniel Everson in any way, shape or form that he can. Because obviously the ultimate goal is to try and win a game of football. And that means that everybody has to play their part, whether they're starting in the 11 or whether they're coming or whether they're sitting on the bench and hoping to maybe come on. Danny Ward, the exception, of course. But yeah, it's a very important point that Matty makes. You have to chip in, even though deep down you'll be disappointed with a decision the manager's made.
Let's talk about a position, Jerry, you're a lot more familiar with. There was a red card for Wout Faes last week. That means it's Amati and Suter as the two central defenders. What do you make of that?
Yeah, that's probably the biggest worrying factor for me. No Johnny Evans, obviously had a recurrence of an injury. So he's out, Faes injured. And now, obviously, you're playing Suter and Daniel Amati. Daniel Amati hasn't really had the best of times lately when he's come in and played. I think for Harry Suter, he's still sort of finding his feet in the Premier League. You know, we've seen some really good stuff from him. And then at other times, he sort of struggled with the positional side of the game. Struggled with being on the front foot when he should be. And so you've got, I don't know what the communication's like between the pair of them. And I keep harping on about it, Dan, that communication between the two centre halves is so vitally important. And this, for me, is a massive sticking plaster, if you want, sort of papering over the cracks with these two at the back today. So it's going to be a big game for these two.
Let's concentrate now on the other end of the pitch. Patson Daka scored a fantastic goal against Chelsea last week, so we caught up with him during the week to preview this trip to Brentford. Patson, what's the overall mood like at the moment? I imagine it's one of frustration because performances have been there at times, but the results aren't coming at the moment.
Yeah, it's just like you said, it's frustration, but also it's kind of like mixed emotions, if I should say. You know, there are also a lot of positive that we can look at. We are creating a lot of chances, but I think we just have to work more into the finishing product. I think it's what we are kind of like lacking. If you look at the previous maybe 3 games we've played, we have created so many chances, but it's just to get the ball at the back of the net, which has been missing. And I think something that we all know that we have got the quality and we'll be able to make the best out of the chances that we create in the next games.
It's interesting that you say the mixed emotions and what you're saying, that there's belief in the group that you can turn this poor form around.
Yeah, the belief has never gone away. We still have the belief. We trust in each other. We believe in each other's qualities, and this is the moment that we even need each other more to support each other. And I think, yeah, we know what we have to do. Everyone knows what they have to do, and I believe together we can do it.
The one time the ball has been in the back of the net in recent games was through you, of course. That was probably only a half a chance. How do you look back at that goal? You must be very proud of it.
Yeah, I think we needed that as a team, first of all. And one thing that was in my mind at that moment was just to shoot. I didn't care what position I was in, whether it was on my left foot or right foot. And yeah, thankfully it was meant to go in. It was a beautiful goal at the end.
Have you scored many like that from outside of the box with your left foot?
Not really. I would say like 99% of my goals are from the inside of the box. I think I've only scored maybe not more than 5 out of the box. And yeah, I think it's something that I'm also kind of like working on, because it's not every time that you get chances in the box. And if you got the opportunity to have half a chance outside the box, then you just have to try your luck, and you never know what can happen.
It's interesting to hear the mentality of a striker, as you say, that when you picked the ball up, you thought, I'm going to shoot here. I don't care where I am, I don't care what foot I'm on, but you had that belief, and you just thought in that moment you could score.
Yeah, I think you first have to believe in yourself. You know the quality that you have, and everyone else is going to believe in you at the end. And I think for me as a striker, everyone expect that, oh, you're going to score goals, you have to score goals. And if you don't have that belief first in yourself, or if you don't make your teammates believe that you're going to score every time they give you the ball, then there's no point in you being there. So I think it's just a matter of not having pressure, but just show what you can do.
Up next is Brentford, of course. We've spoken about hopefully turning the form around. We know it'll be a tough place to go. Brentford have only lost once at home all season in the league, so they're a tough opposition.
Yeah, every opposition, to be honest, in the Premier League, they're tough. It's just how you approach the game, and I'm very much sure, looking at how far we've already started preparing this week, we're heading in the right direction and we're ready to face Brentford. It's not going to be easy. They're in a good run. They're a strong side, but also football is football. Every game is different. Every opponent is different. So yeah, we just need to go in with the right attitude, with the right approach, and yeah, we look forward to getting maximum points.
That was Patson Daka there speaking ahead of this game with Brentford in the week. What do you make of Patson Daka? It was a fantastic goal that he scored, wasn't it, last week? And maybe, hopefully, that can be the catalyst for him, for the team going forward now.
It was to come back in and obviously score a goal of that quality. It's a different type of goal he scored there. You'd more associate that goal with a Kalichi and Nacho type. But then it shows he's capable. Sometimes you have to try your luck, and it was a great finish. You normally expect his goals are over the top, maybe a one-on-one where it shows really good composure in those situations, and obviously finishing off from crosses in the 6-yard box. But it was a fabulous strike, and tried his luck, and Slightly seemed to catch the keeper unaware in that near post, but it was a great finish, and that will give him confidence. And it's a different type of goal that he scores, and obviously Brendan's kept the faith and the confidence in him to lead the line today.
Is that what you need as a striker sometimes? If you've got a goal, particularly one as good as that, you want your manager to back you up and play you again next game? Yeah,
that's the thing with forwards. It's some maybe impact the games and are more comfortable coming off the bench and changing a scenario, but as a forward, if you're scoring, you want to be playing. It's when you go a long period of time without scoring, which Patson Daka was in, gets his goal, and then you think, well, I want to be starting the next game, and then you get more confidence from it. And then today, if he adds to that tally, then you could build on a run through just sheerly pure confidence, where if you're not scoring, sometimes you don't want to be in sort of the firing line as such, because you're not sure if a chance comes your way, you're going to take it or you'll play, and you don't get the chances. But once you've got a goal, you just try and you look, and normally 9 times out of 10 something will come off because you're full of confidence. And it's a cheap word in terms of confidence, but it means so much, and especially for a forward player. Well,
absolutely, Jerry. It's whether it's Tony Cottee, David Nugent, Ewan Roberts, Matty Fryatt, whatever ex-forward we have on, always says confidence is possibly the most important thing for a striker, and hopefully Patson Daka has that after that goal last week.
Yeah, you would like to think. I think his all-round game last week was pretty decent. And to add that goal, great use of the feet, by the way. First the right, then the left foot to get it out again, and then again with the left foot. So great use of both feet. And that in itself, having the confidence to do that, and then strike with his left foot the way he did. So you're hoping he's going to go into that game today confident that he can, if he can score against Chelsea, then you'd like to think he'll be thinking that he can get a goal against Brentford, even though it's a completely different sort of game to the game against Chelsea. But yeah, vitally important. Like your strikers, that some strikers need a little arm around them, sometimes more than other players on the pitch or in different positions, and invariably, more often than not, just that by scoring a goal, it just means that they're going into that next game and they don't need any sort of help or any sort of little pat on the back from anybody, because they know that they can achieve that goal of actually scoring. So hopefully Patson goes into today's game, he's ably supported with Madison there as well. So that's hopefully a good matchup. What I did like about last week, Dan, in particular, was the link up between Iheanacho and Daka. It almost came to fruition on a few occasions, i.e. goal scoring opportunities, but the actual link up play was good. So hopefully that will add to his confidence as well.
Speaking of confidence, one man that absolutely has it at the moment is Ivan Toney. The Brentford striker has 17 goals. He's the second highest English scorer in the Premier League, just behind Harry Kane as well. And Brendan Rodgers was asked how good he is and how difficult it is to stop him.
I've been really impressed. I've been really impressed with him and with the team itself. What I really enjoy watching about Brentford is they haven't been affected yet by the Premier League. What I'm saying is that sometimes when you're in the Premier League for a period of time, you stop doing the basics of the game well, like running and fighting and getting tight to people. This is a team that come up out of the Championship and are still hungry for that. So they do the basics of the game really well, and with good organisation and with talent. They've had a very, very good season. Ivan, as you say, he's been fantastic. You see that he's grown since he's come in, has that confidence, he has the technical quality, but he's a street player also. He's aggressively strong, and he's an outstanding player. So we have to be ready for the team because they get some other good players, and then we collectively have to go and play well as a team to get the result.
And in terms of coming into this international break, how important is it that you try and get something positive out of this game against Brentford to go into that international break in a positive mindset? Yeah,
very much so. I think that's always the wherever you're in the league. I think coming into an international break, whether there's a period in between, it's always good to if you can go into that with a positive result and performance. So that's what we'll aim to do.
Brentford, one of the best at exploiting teams who maybe switch off a bit the way they succeed through set pieces and hit on the counter attack and, like you say, do the basics wrong.
Yeah, I think they do it really, really well. Really strong, like you say, in set pieces. General game is good. Played out of different systems as well. Thomas has predominantly played out of 4-3-3 most of the season, maybe against some of the bigger teams. They've switched the structure, but in the main, they've had a cohesive group over the last few years. They've added to that without losing anyone, and then the players have grown from within that and added quality. So yeah, and obviously playing at home has been really good for them. There's still that great enthusiasm you can tell with the support and that connection because of arriving into the Premier League, and they've done very, very well.
Matthew, while Brendan was speaking there, we were talking off air because we've got pictures of James Maddison warming up at Brentford, and we were saying he's key, isn't he, to this Leicester side, to making this Leicester side tick.
Exactly the same with Brentford and Tony. That's how influential James Maddison is to the Leicester team. The creativity, the responsibility he shows in terms of receiving the ball, the composure, the key passes, the goals he produces. And the other week when he wasn't in the team against Arsenal, my heart sort of sank in terms of I felt initially going into the game that Leicester could win it, and then not knowing that James Maddison wasn't in the team.
And he does make that much of a difference.
He makes that much of a difference, and it was some ways a flat performance because of it. And it's great to see that he's been rewarded in terms of keeping his place with England, but he's so vital to Leicester, and their chances of even doing well in games, you saw even against Southampton, what he was creating, the little bits of magic he can produce. He's a type of player that seems to have more time on the ball than anyone else, and he's effective with it. He's not just a player that will keep it for show. He can produce, obviously, assists and goals, and he seems to thrive on that responsibility as well and lifts other players around him.
Yep, he did score away at Brentford last season, as did Yuri Tielemans. Of course, we'll see that goal a little bit later. That was part of Brentford's first season back in the Premier League, and they've certainly built on last season's finish. These Brentford fans are enjoying easily their best ever Premier League campaign. Having finished 13th a year ago, Thomas Frank's side are just 5 points shy of last season's total of 46 points. They've only lost once at home this campaign, and they've drawn 11 times in total in the league, including in the curtain raiser at King Power Stadium back in August.
I think that they've continued to make progress. They certainly benefited from last year. The aim of the club is to progress forward, and they are just, they're not that far shy of the points they got last season now, which would be the first point of improvement. All this talk about Europe and what could happen, obviously that's a lot of talk of that is going on the outside. I think Thomas constantly refers to being hungry yet humble. So they have this desire to want to go out and win. They have this real progress ethos that they want to make, but they're not doing it, lauding it all over the place. And they move on from the next game.
Ivan Toney's return of 17 goals and 5 assists in all competitions means he tops Brentford's charts in both of those areas. Fresh off the back of his England call-up on Thursday, his goals may just propel Thomas Frank and the Bees into European football next season.
I think we are a club with big dreams, and we are thinking and believe in. We're very optimistic in our way of seeing life and the world, and we want to achieve as much as possible. It's never been a clear target, but we want to end as high as possible, and we want to win the next game. And I know we are in a good position in the league, but we saw against Everton, if we're not completely on it, especially first half against Everton, it's difficult. It'll be the same against the Leicester team on Saturday. So I really want to focus on that game and do what we can to get the 3 points.
But this set of games that they've actually had this week in 8 days, so Everton away, Southampton yesterday, and with all due respect to Leicester at home, are games where suddenly maybe there is an expectation to come out of with something from the outside. Again, I think the staff, the players, but certainly the coaching staff are very keen to impress that nothing is taken for granted in the Premier League. You know, if you take your eye off the ball, then you can get punished very, very quickly, even by teams who are below you in the league, teams who may be appearing to have a bit of a tough time. That doesn't matter. You've got to be absolutely on it every single time that you run out onto the pitch.
Thanks to Phil Parry there from BBC Radio London. What have you made, Jerry, of Brentford, not just this season but last? And under Thomas Frank, they look like a real proper side.
Yeah, they're a functional team, aren't they? They don't try and do things that they can't as a team and as individuals, and that makes them very functional. They get the ball into the box early. You've seen the equalising goal against Leicester, the first game of the season. The ball comes in from all different angles into the box. Good at set pieces. I like Brendan Rodgers' analogy of Ivan Toney being a street player. And that's what Leicester need today. You know, if they're going to get anything out of this game, they need to toughen up. They need to sharpen up, sharpen a few elbows if you want, because they're a physical team. A physical side, a functional side, and everybody knows their role and their job in that side, and that's why they're getting success. You know, they also do play a little bit of football as well, but in the main, they play in the right areas of the pitch. And they are a team, everybody working for each other. So it's going to be a difficult afternoon for Leicester. They're going to have to roll their sleeves up. And again, just one out, I think they've gained 26 points this season at home, Dan, which is 2 more than what Leicester have in total. And that's just from their home game. So before you're coming into this game, you know this is going to be a really tough ask.
Yep, they've only lost once at home this season. That is to the Premier League leaders, Arsenal. How good is Ivan Toney? He's the key man. 17 goals, 5 assists this season. He's got his England call-up. He's very much the main man at Brentford.
Yeah, he's deserved that though. He can do it all. His hold-up play, his physicality. The one thing that surprised me with him is his composure when he's in them positions. And obviously everyone talks about his penalty qualities. But his finishes, he shows a lot more because he can do the ugly side of the game. He does it really well, brings players into play, and he's been phenomenal for Brentford. He really has, and he's the focal point. He's the target man. He'll run the channels. He'll compete, and he'll get the goals as well and show the class that he's capable of producing, because you wouldn't be on the amount of goals he scored in the Premiership if you haven't got that. But he's also he's got the experience and the grounding where he's come up from League 2, League 1, Championship, and then he's continued his form into the Premiership, and he holds no prisoners. He's got no fear. He just plays the game and gives it his all, and he's always going to be a handful for defenders.
Yeah, it was another goal and an assist, Jerry, in midweek for Ivan Toney as they beat Southampton away at St Mary's. They're very much knocking on the door. I think if they beat Leicester, they go into the top 6 today. And you look at their recent form, other than losing, of course, to Everton a week ago, they're really disappointed with that. It makes for really good reading.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, as Matty alluded to just before about strikers and confidence, Ivan Toney, full of confidence, and that's probably why you're seeing that composure step up to the fore as well with him. As you say, he gets on the end of a flick on from a set piece the other night, opens the scoring. And again, it's all down to the functionality of the team, Dan. You know, you go through their team, and there's not very many household names in that team. Obviously, Ivan Toney now has made himself a household name with the goals returns that he's got. But, you know, you look at the likes of Matthias Jansen, who scored 3 in his last 4 home games as well. He's Wisa and Boomer. You know, they all carry a threat to this team. And so if they sort of can keep that momentum going with them, then they've got themselves a really good chance of knocking on the door.
Been referenced already, and as you said, Jerry, they scored from a set piece in midweek. They're very good set pieces. That's something where Leicester have been, an area rather, where Leicester have been fallible in the last couple of seasons as well. So they'll fancy themselves if they get a long throw in or if they get corners today.
Yeah, again, and it's the simplicity of them. You know, it's almost like a throwback, like you say, with long throws, near post flick-ons, stuff like that. You know, it's the simplicity of it. There's nothing over intricate about what they do. But because they're a physical team, then they just basically out-muscle. They out-fight other teams. And because they want to win that first contact, that's why you're seeing them getting so many goals from set pieces and the like. So again, that's why I'm saying that it's vitally important that, you know, Leicester concentrate on the basics today. Roll their sleeves up and dig deep, because, you know, this ain't going to be pretty.
One man that exclusively concentrated on the basics when he was a player was Matt Elliott. He is down at the Gtech Community Stadium today for us on co-commentary. Good afternoon, Matt. Did you make it on time today?
Afternoon, mate. So, talking of not being pretty, over to me, yeah? Yes, I got here in very good time, actually, despite, was it a 3-hour journey or so? There was a lot of traffic on the roads, but you know me, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed on a Saturday morning, got here plenty of time.
Yeah, you're never late, Matt, are you? What do you make of it, the thought and the prospect of today? I assume this is your first trip to the new stadium? No,
I've been here, I'm thinking I've been here on a couple of occasions, certainly one. Yeah.
The FA Cup game, actually.
Yeah, the FA Cup game it was, wasn't it? Yeah, so I was just thinking then, but yeah, it's unusual setting, you know, just plonked in a small area of space, you know, in southwest London there. They've just sort of slotted the stadium in almost, for aerially it looks like, but it's quite vibrant. Yet to develop the atmosphere fully, of course, you know, what with 25 minutes to go before kickoff, but you know it's going to be a full house here. Brentford going well. They're quite lively as supporters, aren't they? And the team give their supporters something to cheer about as well. And as the lads have been saying there, that's going to be part of the challenge, part of the test for Leicester City this afternoon, is sort of standing up to what is put in front of them, because just watching them, they're very intense in their, and it's only a warm-up, right? You can't read too much into things, but they're very intense, Brentford, in it. It's well planned out, it's well structured, even the warm-up. But the players there are going through their paces in a bit of pattern of play, shall we say, you know, how they're intending to play come game time. But there's an intensity about it. I'm not saying Leicester's isn't, but it's a little bit out of the ordinary, shall we say, how Brentford are preparing themselves. And again, sort of setting the tone. Leicester players will be casting a little eye over their shoulder, just keeping an eye on things, weighing up and hopefully embracing the challenge.
I'm sure you've got half an eye on the Leicester City goalkeeper in their warm-up as well. I've got the take of Matty and Jerry on that. What do you make of it today, that headline change in goal?
Yeah, I think it's just sort of a culmination of not huge errors by Ward, is it? But just sort of as if his confidence maybe needs refocusing. Really, like Jerry's mentioned there about the goal conceded against Chelsea, is a little bit sort of indicative of lapse of concentration, really, isn't it? There, and you can't afford that. But sometimes it's hard, for managers or goalkeepers themselves to actually pinpoint what it is they're not doing as well as they could. But just when it gets to a stage and you're thinking, right, okay, maybe it's best for all parties just to make that decision. It's quite a big shout from Brendan Rodgers, because some people could say, listen, Everson, if he wasn't good enough 2 weeks ago or at the start of the season, why is he good enough now to take over from Ward? But I think he's obviously applying himself well in training, and Brendan Rodgers has thought, right, listen, maybe now's the time, and time will tell on that one, but I'm sure it'll be tested out this afternoon, wouldn't it? As you say, Brentford will be pinpointing him and trying to target him, particularly early on.
Yeah, that's very much the headline team news from a Leicester City point of view today. Thank you very much, Matt. Let's remind ourselves of the team news for both these sides today. For Leicester, of course, it is a change in goal with Daniel Everson starting ahead of Danny Ward. It's a back four of Timothy Castagna, Daniel Amati, Harry Souttar and Ricardo, Kieran Dewsbury-Hall and Wilfred Ndidi in the holding midfield roles, with Barnes, Madison and Tete in behind last week's goal scorer Patson Daka. From a Brentford point of view, Raya is in goal. It's a back four of Henry, Mee, Pinnock and Hickey, Jensen, Norgard and Damsgaard in midfield, with Wissa and Bueno and Ivan Toney, the main man for Brentford, leading the line, of course. Let's take a look back then at some classic goals scored against Brentford in Leicester City colours.
Pratt on the halfway line. There's a run being made by Justin on the right hand side. That's a great ball into James Justin inside the box. Ball across. Great chance! And it's put in by Kelechi Iheanacho. It's taken just around 3 minutes here for the owner. And when this man gets chances, it normally means goals. And Kelechi Iheanacho putting that one into the far post there to give Leicester City the perfect start here at Griffin Park. Madison's gone past two edge of the box, tries to slip it into the box. Cengiz Ünder! What a start to the second half. We haven't even played 50 seconds and Leicester find themselves an equaliser. Great work there by James Maddison in the build-up, and Cengiz Ünder striking. Maddison is taking this free kick just a yard off the touchline. Curls it in here towards Iheanacho. Headed away by Henry, back to Tielemans! What a goal! Youri Tielemans! Capable of the spectacular, and that was absolutely astonishing. Kasper Schmeichel's able to pick it up without too many issues, and once again pinged it into space in the Brentford half towards Iheanacho. Leicester have covered half the pitch in double quick time. Ball inside here, the team just knocks it through, and Patson Daka's through. It's Daka again. It's Madison. 2-1 Leicester. Lightning quick counter. Kasper Schmeichel from one end to the other. It looked as though it was going to be Daka, unselfish in his play, and James Maddison scores for the first time since February. A long time coming, and he was never going to miss.
It's Papi Mendy who switches play beautifully out to this left-hand side. In the channel is Harvey Barnes. He's dangerous in these positions. Here's Castagna, who's urged to shoot and does so spectacularly. What a brilliant goal from Timothy Castagna. He has smashed that into the top corner. James Maddison for the Foxes. Sensational! James Maddison with a fantastic free kick to make it 2-0 to the Foxes here at King Power Stadium. Anything Timothy Castagna can do, James Maddison can do just as well.
There were 4 goals Jerry scored against Brentford last season, all 4 of them absolutely brilliant. Castagna, Maddison's free kick, Tielemans' rocket, and then of course that breakaway team goal as well. So they'd take anything today though, wouldn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, Leicester's record against Brentford is pretty good, you have to say. I think they'll have won their last 6 away games when they've been there, and they're unbeaten in 11. So, you know, hopefully they can buck a trend with today's game. But you mentioned the 4 goals, and that's quite ironic because in 13 away games this season, Dan, Leicester there's been almost 4 goals in those 13 away games, 50 goals scored and conceded in those 13 away games. So I think there's going to be goals today. Hopefully, you know, as we've just seen on those clips, they can go to well, Leicester.
Well, that leads me nicely on to the final question. You know what's coming, Jerry. What is your prediction today?
It's a tough one, Dan. Ask Matty Fred first. No, listen, it's going to be a tough ask, and there's still a few things that need sorting out in my mind. There's going to be goals, like I said, but I think Leicester are going to be on the wrong side of a defeat today. And I think it's going to be 2-1 to Brentford.
Can you bring some positivity for us, Matty?
I can. From the previous records that Jerry's mentioned, Leicester are unbeaten against Brentford in the Premier League, regardless of the table at the minute and maybe the confidence between both teams. But I can see Leicester causing Brentford problems by playing through the lines, even though sometimes it is a full sense of security as Brentford give the opposition the ball and sort of counter on that. But you know what? I could see a 1-1.
Okay. There we go then. They're the predictions of Jerry Taggart and Matty Fryatt ahead of kickoff. We're about 15 minutes now away from kickoff in West London, so we can hand you over to our commentary team today of Chris Parrott and Matt Elliott, where hopefully the Foxes can get all 3 points. We've got commentary coming up just after this short break.
Because memories never fade, no matter how long. We'll still remember the moments of excitement and the impressions of Thailand. Amazing Thailand, now even more amazing.
Lamiat is the belief that perfection lies within the details, where the finest ingredients deserve the finest craftsmanship. In every pursuit of perfection, there is passion and perseverance, where attention to detail inspires a masterpiece that's balanced and in harmony. This is the Lamiat philosophy, brewed into every drop of Chang beer. This is the taste of Thai perfection. Chang beer. We brew friendship.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Gtech Stadium in West London as Leicester City continue their Premier League season, and things might just be about to get a little more nervy as we approach the run-in. It's a glorious day. We've had the showers, now we have the spring sunshine. The floodlights are on. I'm Chris Parrott alongside the former Leicester City captain Matt Elliott as the ground fills up. The Leicester fans over the other side of the pitch here, between the north stand and the east stand. It's a lovely new home that Brentford have built for themselves. They are having the season of dreams and genuinely may well be playing European football next campaign. Matt, for Leicester, it really is all about top flight survival now with, what, 11 games to go after this?
Unfortunately, yeah, that's the basics of what it's come to. There's still a fair percentage of the season to go. You know, a lot can happen between now and the end of the campaign, but at the moment there are a lot of understandably so concerned supporters out there, concerned people in and around the club as well, and the players should be part of that as well. They should be concerned, and you want to see that concern reflected in the performance, really, because it needs up in a level or two or maybe even 3 to get themselves out of this predicament, which is going to be far from easy, in particular this game here today against Brentford.
Yeah, 5 straight defeats in all competitions since those couple of very impressive wins which looked like they'd moved Leicester into relative security in mid-table, but as we've seen, some of those below Leicester have started to win, and it is a crazy Premier League season. 5 points separate 12th placed Crystal Palace, who parted company with Patrick Vieira yesterday, and Southampton, who are bottom, Matt. 5 points covering 9 clubs, many of whom play each other, including Leicester when you look at fixtures down the road. So, I mean, as you mentioned, there's going to be a lot of twists and turns, but if anyone can put a run together of 2 or 3 positive results, they may well find themselves finishing the campaign very comfortably in mid-table.
Yeah, I think Leicester need to use that as motivation for themselves, you know, to inspire themselves. They are capable of putting a little run together. They've shown that previously. You know, there is the talent within the squad. There are problems as well. They wouldn't be in the predicament they are if there weren't. But use that, sort of incentivise yourself, and stir yourself into the performance that gets you that win. Whether it's hard fought, you know, going up against the opposition, striking at the right times, or playing, which is going to be unlikely, you know, pretty fancy football as Leicester are capable of. But it's not really necessarily a time for that. It's just for rolling the sleeves up, knuckling down and showing some real character. And Leicester at times have been lacking that a little bit. But if you do get even the one win today against the odds, amazing how times have changed, isn't it? Leicester not favourites against Brentford, regardless whether it's home or away. But justifiably so, the home team go into this, you know, being well backed. And but Leicester, just one win today can put Leicester to 12.
Yes.
That's how finely balanced it is. So don't be worried about that. Wondering about what the other teams are going to do, what they might do or might not. Got to go out there and grab hold of things and force the issue themselves. Listen, against the odds slightly today, they get a result. What a pep that would be, wouldn't it? You know, what a boost that would be before the real business starts towards the very end of the season.
Yeah, of course, next weekend is the international break, so it's a couple of weeks before Leicester City are back in action. The Premier League arches on the pitch, and the players are going to be given a guard of honour today by the Brentford Penguins Football Club, which is a team dedicated to players with Down syndrome, set up by Brentford legend Alan Cochrane in 2017. And there was a very lovely piece actually with some of the players and him on the pitch 10 or 15 minutes ago. They're there with their red Brentford flags, and they're gonna wave their heroes out onto the pitch. The Brentford seats, which are red and yellow and black and white, are beginning to fill up here. The blue corner, as I mentioned, opposite us. And when this place is full, and it will be at kickoff, 17,000, they've created a real atmosphere here since they moved just across the road from Griffin Park to our left-hand side, which could be noisy at times, but Brentford as a football club are having quite the ride at the moment. And this is a huge encounter for them. Remember, they came back against Leicester way back on the opening day, and since then Thomas Frank's team have been on a heck of a run really, and believe that they can be playing European football very soon. 8 minutes until kickoff. We'll go through the two teams in full once that the players are out. But if you are just joining us, Daniel Everson starts in goal today. Danny Ward is on the bench. Matt, if I can take you back to your Premier League debut, or the Premiership debut.
I thought you was going to say my raving days with this, music on.
We'll get
insomnia,
on
isn't it?
This? Of course you know.
Perhaps let's stick with your subject. Let's go with that.
I think that was after your Premier League debut, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The evening after.
During.
But how will he be feeling?
Premier League debut. Listen, hopefully excited. There's a little bit of apprehension, nervousness there. Of course there is, but you know it's an exciting point of your life, isn't it? But this is what he's building up for. This is what he's trained all those hours for. So you don't want to be coming into it and being reluctant and thinking, oh my God, the pressure's on me. Especially, couldn't I have come in at a nicer time of the season? It doesn't work like that. I was going to say in at the deep end, probably a little bit of an exaggeration, but he's had plenty of time to prepare for this moment. Very capable. He's had his time out on loan, etc. He's proved himself day in, day out in training to Brendan Rodgers. That's why he's got the nod today. So again, you've got to be quite resilient, resourceful, and remind yourself of why you are being selected. Don't come into this for the trepidation, and because it can be, despite the small capacity here, quite a hotbed. Quite a not volatile but lively atmosphere, and it's not a place for the faint-hearted, is it, to go up against Brentford?
No, it's not.
Daniel Everson's I'm not saying got to prove himself, but he's got to stand up if he can today.
Yeah, Brentford do play some lovely football, but they're also not afraid to mix it. I think that they are physical when they need to be. They employ the dark arts when they need to be, and why not? It's incredibly successful. But I think
they've got a good blend.
Very good blend,
haven't they? On the pitch and off it as well. They're ramping the atmosphere up here. It's called the Gtech Community Stadium. It very much feels like a community. Involvement from all walks of society, but at the same time it's got a genuine football atmosphere as well, and they've got a good mix.
Scratched around the low leagues for a long time. One promotion under Thomas Frank 2 years ago, and now are almost certain to finish in the top 10 of the Premier League. They might even still finish in the top 4. Who knows? As Matt said, there's a long way to go. But from Leicester's perspective, they have to enjoy the song, as Matt is on my right-hand side.
Just had a bit of insomnia. Now, this is my grandson's name, Jude, who's only 5.5 months old, and they're playing it in his honour as well. It's all happening already.
A lovely sentiment, and lots of smiles on the Brentford fans' faces. The Leicester subs have just taken their seats, or 5-6 rows in front of us here, including Luke Thomas, back in the England under-21 squad, and hopefully playing at King Power Stadium over the international break. But as you can hear now, the noise levels are rising as we approach kickoff in 4 minutes time, and the games from now on in get bigger and more important. Can Leicester stand up and be counted here in West London this afternoon? All of their relegation rivals are playing as well today. They can be 12th tonight. They could potentially be bottom as well. That type of season. And here come the two teams out of the tunnel, and the Gtech Stadium rises for Brentford and Leicester City. Spring is in the air and things are getting serious in the Premier League. Every match from now on will be vital, with just 5 points separating 9 clubs. Leicester know just how important this afternoon as they walk out in West London. They've won their 2 trips here since Brentford moved to their sparkling new home. How they'd love a third against a Brentford side who are chasing European football at the end of the campaign. Well, Leicester in their smart tracksuits stood to the right of the Premier League arch. The referee today, Darren Bond, standing right in the middle of it, and we are almost ready for action. Team news: 4 changes from the Chelsea defeat. The biggest one is in goal. Daniel Everson comes in for his Premier League debut. Danny Ward is on the bench. No Johnny Evans through injury again, or Wout Faes through suspension after his red card last week. Wilfred Ndidi, Tete and Patson Daka also come into the 11 alongside Everson. So Leicester will have the Dane in goal. In front of Daniel Everson, Ricardo, Amati, Sutar and Castagna. Ndidi and Dewsbury Hall will hold. Tete, the captain Maddison after his latest England call-up, and Barnes behind Daka, who scored in the Premier League for the first time since October last week. But the players have shaken hands with each other. James Maddison has taken his tracksuit off and runs over to the travelling supporters and gives them a big hand on his own here, James Maddison, very much hoping to lead from the front. And it's a nice moment between captain and away supporters before the action takes place. For Brentford, well, they won in midweek at Southampton. They lost Vitaly Janelt to injury at St Mary's. Young Mikkel Damsgaard comes in, so does Johan Wissa. 2 changes then from their win a couple of days ago. They'll have Raya in goal, a back 4 of Hickey, Pinnock, Mee and Henry. An all-Danish midfield 3 of Jensen, Norgard and Damsgaard, with Mbuemo and Wissa either side of Ivan Toney, who, like James Maddison, is in the England squad for the upcoming internationals. The referee has blown his whistle, and very shortly David Raya will join James Maddison in the centre circle, and has a touch of the ball, the goalkeeper. He's not the captain, it's Christian Norgard, so I'm not quite sure why Raya's run up from the back of his net, but Darren Bond is having a chat anyway with the 2 captains. The 4th official is Jared Gillett. The video assistant referee is Peter Banks, and he'll be assisted by Neil Davis. The first thing to say is that I think James Maddison has turned the teams around, having won the toss of the coin, and maybe looked to the sky as if to say there's a bit of sun and it might help out our goalkeeper Daniel Everson. But a bit of kidology from James Maddison. So Leicester are going to be attacking the end where the travelling fans are in the first half, as the two sets of players go into their huddle. Matt, how are you feeling ahead of this one, and how do you expect Leicester to approach the start of the game in particular?
Well, just watching their body language there, and slightly encouraged by it really. James Maddison in particular, you mentioned him on a couple of occasions there. He's doing his best to get Leicester up for the fight, to get the supporters back in the players there. He's gone over, as you said, acknowledged them, clapped them. That stirred them, and then he pulled the players in together. They don't always have a huddle, I think I'm right in saying.
Yeah.
But there was a little sort of authenticity about it as well. It wasn't just going through the motions. James Maddison's revelling in the role as captain, however long that may be, and certainly doing his best to get the players fired up, and they're going to need to be.
Here we